Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Petty Lords. If you are into anything Middle-earth, Arda, or Tolkien related, make sure and drop a like and subscribe to the channel, as we will be covering many different subjects including character breakdowns, locations, the great battles, and epic adventures of your favorite characters. Today we will be discussing two of Tolkien's lesser-known characters, two of the Astari or wizards, in fact the blue wizards, Alatar and Polando. When Morgoth is defeated at the end of the War of Wrath in the First Age, his greatest lieutenant, Sauron, decides to step in and take the role of the new Dark Lord of Middle-earth. To help combat this growing threat of darkness, the Valar, or the gods of Tolkien's world, take counsel with each other and choose to send a group of emissaries to assist in this battle. These emissaries, known as the Astari, or the Great Wizards of Middle-earth, were hand-chosen by the Valar to assist in different locations in Middle-earth. Now we have two different accounts of these two specific characters. Now, while in his original text, the two blue wizards did show up in 1000 of the Third Age with the rest of the wizards, in Tolkien's later writings, he decided to change the time in which the blue wizards showed up, in the Second Age rather than the Third. In this video, we will be covering both accounts. After the Valar have taken counsel and their emissaries have been decided, the 5 emissaries that were sent were Saruman the White, Radagast the Brown, Gandalf the Grey, Alatar the Blue, and Polando the Blue. While we do learn quite a bit about Saruman, Radagast, and of course the greatest of the Astari, Gandalf, little is known about Alatar and Polando. We will start with the earliest and most well-known writing of the Blue Wizards. When the Astari are chosen, the hunter Orome chooses the wizard Alatar, who in turn chooses to bring along his friend Polando. Polando and Alatar show up in Middle-earth with Saruman and the rest of the wizards in 1000 of the Third Age. Upon their arrival, they travel to the east along with Saruman the White. After a period of 1500 years, Saruman the White leaves the east, while the blue wizards stay. While many speculate that Saruman the White may have had something to do with the disappearance of the blue wizards, there is almost little to no evidence to support this theory, leaving many to speculate and theorize about what happened to these two Astari. While again, not much is known about these two during this period of time, we can refer back to Tolkien's letter 211, as he states, "I think they went as emissaries to distant regions, east and south, far out of Númenórean range, missionaries to enemy-occupied lands, as it were. What success they had, I do not know, but I fear that they failed, as Saruman did, though doubtless in different ways. And I suspect that they were founders or beginners of secret cults and magic traditions that outlasted the fall of Sauron." Now, while we refer back to Tolkien's text, we do know that Gandalf is the only Astari to stay true to his mission. And at this point in time, due to his first account, that is really all we know about the Blue Wizards. Tolkien later revisits these characters later in his life and writings. In his later text, Alatar and Polando instead come to Middle-earth in the year 1600 of the Second Age, around the same time that the elf Glorfindel returns. This change in timeline is approximately 2,841 years earlier than the other Astari. While Glorfindel heads to Rivendell to assist Elrond, Alatar and Polando still in fact head to the east, or the land of Rhûn. Considering that the Valar Orome, who had chosen the Blue Wizards for this task, had traveled to this area in previous years and discovered the first elves in this area, it makes sense that Alatar and Polando head east as well. In this revisited text, Tolkien states in the peoples of Middle-earth that their task was to circumvent Sauron. to bring help to the few tribes of men that had rebelled from Melkor worship, to stir up the rebellion, and after his first fall, to search out in his hiding in which they failed, and to cause dissension and disarray among the Dark East. They must have had very great influence on the history of the Second Age and Third, again in the weakening and disarraying of the forces of the East, who would both, in the Second Age and Third Age, otherwise have outnumbered the West. At this point, the Blue Wizards are renamed in the account. Alatar is now known as Morinatar, Darkness Slayer, and Polando is now known as Romastamo, or East Helper. Even with these changes, Tolkien states that Gandalf is still the only Astari to remain true to his task and return to the Valinor, or the Undying Lands. During this segment in the Third Age, through the Watchful Peace, the Blue Wizards are tasked to seek out Sauron in the East, in which they do not succeed. It was common for Sauron to retreat to the east. At this time, Sauron is hard at work playing on old allegiances to himself and further corrupting the men of the east, and becomes feared as a king and a god. In the year of 1701 of the Second Age, Sauron is defeated in the War of the Elves and Sauron. He retreats to Mordor and continues influencing the men of the east. Around this time, Sauron gives one of the rings of power to a great lord of the east, Khamul. With his new ring of power, Khamul becomes a great king and sorcerer. That is, until the ring wears on him and pulls him into the Wraith world and transforms him into a servant of Sauron, a Nazgul, or a ring wraith, second only in power to the Witch King himself. As we move into the Third Age, in the year 2060, Gandalf enters Dol Guldur, the Hill of Sorcery, and Sauron flees before Gandalf can discover who he actually is. Sauron, of course, flees to the east and continues his work corrupting the Easterlings for the next 400 years, known to the rest of the Middle-earth as the Watchful Peace. While the Blue Wizards fail in locating the Dark Lord, they do help to ensure that the forces of the East do not outnumber the men of the West, which no doubt helps the heroes of Middle-earth in their fight against the Dark Lord and his evil forces, in both the Second Age and the War of the Last Alliance, and in the War of the Ring in the Third Age. As this is a neat concept that Morinatar and Romastamo helps the Easterlings in combating Sauron, much like Gandalf helps the men of the West in a similar fashion. The earlier arrival of the Blue Wizards brings up a reference also in Tolkien's book, The Two Towers, which Saruman in his anger at Orthanc states.
Later. Yes, when you have the keys to Barad-dûr itself, I suppose, and the crowns of the 7 kings, and the rods of the 5 wizards.
Which means, regardless of meeting point, that Saruman knows of the Blue Wizards, whether meeting in Middle-earth or back in their home of Valinor, even though he may have arrived in Middle-earth 2,841 years later than Morinatar and Romastamo. He could have met the Blue Wizards possibly during his 1,500 years in the East. We are not sure. After the War of the Ring in the Fourth Age, we discovered that High King Aragorn Elisar and Aramir King of Rohan would march to the east to help quell the remaining Dark Lord's servants. Maybe these great kings of men may have stumbled upon the Blue Wizards themselves, or maybe even discovering the secret cults or magic traditions that Morinatar and Romastamo had founded. Yet even with what we know of these wizards, they remain one of the greatest mysteries of Arda, even with the author himself not knowing what comes of these two great Astari. So what do you think happened to the Blue Wizards, Morinatar and Romastamo? We are interested to see what you think. Drop a comment below to let us know what you think and who you would like to see in the next video. If you like the Tolkien, Arda, or Middle-earth lore, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you again, everyone, and we will see you in our next video, for we are not runic emperors, just the petty lords.